we're gonna start off with a little scenario. Let's imagine that all of you are police officers and y'all got called out to a call. You're by yourself or with your partner. The call is that I'm in my bedroom. I have the door shut. I told my wife I was suicidal, that I don't want to be here anymore, that I feel like if I wasn't with my family, they'd be better off. So I'm sitting in a chair in my bedroom. Let's say this is my desk, and I've got just a computer or something right here, and I've got my hands under this desk, and you walk in. What's the first thing you're gonna say to me?
How many your hands?
What if I say no?
Taser.
Taser? Well, we'll get to that later. But tasers only work about 50% of the time, and you gotta be so close that if I had a gun right here, now what are you gonna do? Am I a danger to you or anybody else?
You can't shoot.
Bang.
We're saying police can't shoot if you have a gun to your head like that.
Am I a danger to myself and anybody else?
Yes.
Yes.
Police are trained to stop the danger. And today I'm gonna talk about why the police use of deadly force is relevant and why it's almost a necessary evil, and it's a tool that is used for public safety. But one thing I want to clear up before I get to that is I'm not up here justifying every police shooting that's ever happened. All I'm saying is that I want to educate that this tool is not just a way for police to legally murder people, that this is, I'm not going to get up here and say that every police officer is a great police officer. Every time they use this, it was the right way. All I'm saying is that there is a need for it. Which leads me to the next point is it's all about safety. It's immediately stopping the threat and eliminating the threat. So 144 cops were killed by gunfire alone in 2018. That number is more. Does anybody want to guess what these numbers are? This is from 2012 to 2018. It says 1, 3, 6, 18, 17, and 11. Anybody want to guess what those numbers are?
People killed by cops?
Those are the amount of soldiers killed in Iraq from 2012 to 2018. We've had more cops killed by gunfire in 1 year than we have soldiers killed in Iraq in the last 6 years. And this was just in 2018 alone, and then these were some of the bigger, higher, more well-known profile cases. These three were all killed in New York at a routine traffic stop. They pulled a man over, they asked him to get out of his car. When he got out, he pulled out a shotgun and killed all three officers and killed himself. And they still don't know why. Which this will lead me to my next point, and the fact that it's a necessary evil. Without the use of deadly force, the amount of people that have also been killed by gunmen would be so much higher, because I'm not saying I'm going to shoot anybody, that I'm going to get out of the way, but if I was a gunman and I knew the police weren't going to shoot me, why would I stop when they showed up? There was actually a shooting in Aurora, Illinois. Anybody hear about that at the factory? There was a man who showed up to work, he knew he was going to get fired, so he brought a handgun. And he killed 5 civilians, shot 5 officers, and he was finally stopped by the 6th officer. The officer shot and killed him. The family wanted to sue the Aurora, Illinois Police Department because they murdered her wife, or her husband. And they ultimately lost the case, but it went far enough that it kind of made me sit back and think, why is that even a question? Why should the person who killed 5 people and then tried to kill another 5 should even, that just didn't make sense to me. So while that situation, most people would agree that that threat needed to be stopped, but when there is the chance to use less lethal force, that's where people kind of start to get lost. Like, why didn't you shoot the gun out of his hand? There's actually a big question that people ask. Why didn't you shoot the gun out of his hand? Why didn't you taser him? It was just a BB gun. How did you not know it was just a BB gun? Less than lethal forces do not always work. There was a stat put out by LAPD, a news station down there, spcc.org, tasers only work in LAPD. They were deployed about 1,000 times. They only worked about 400 times. And the range on them is so close that by the time you approach the suspect with your taser out, if they had a weapon, you're not seeing your family through the day. And tasers are considered less than lethal, but if you have somebody high on a stimulant or something like that, that taser is either gonna blow up their heart or it's just not gonna work in general. And I like to incorporate some humor. I was tased when I have a job in Franklin County at the Sheriff's Department. I work in the jail, and tasers work when they hit. That is the worst 5 seconds of your life, I promise. But the worst thing about tasers is that's all they can hold it for, about 5 seconds before they're in trouble for using the taser incorrectly, and then that cop's going to jail. So you only get a cycle of about 5 to 8 seconds, and then it's about 3 to 5 seconds, and you're back up again. So you hope that after your cycle is over that they haven't torn those prongs out of their back and they're coming at you again. Which the use of less than lethal also comes with pepper spray, and pepper spray is another one that it works really good when it hits, but if you miss and you're so close, I hope you have hand-to-hand combat. And a lot of departments don't really train hand-to-hand combat anymore, so it's kind of a dying way to protect yourself. And with the use of less than lethal, even if they don't work and they end up having to eliminate the threat with deadly force, a lot of the times people are like, well, why didn't you do it this way? Why didn't you do it this way? You could have done this, you should have done this. Which, hindsight is 20/20. And that leads me to the next point is, a lot of the time, there could have been other ways if that officer didn't have more than 2 seconds to figure out who's going home at the end of the day, me or him. And that's another thing that I just want to get across is that police, they're held to a higher standard, and they should be, because they're the ones who enforce the laws, they're the ones who arrest us for breaking the law, but they are still human. They make mistakes. Just like the person that they were arresting or whatever, they made a mistake. It's such a higher mistake, but the reason that a lot of the cops are justified is the use of deadly force is, the definition is what would a reasonable person would have done in the same situation. And that's something that the Supreme Court has used now instead of a continuum, because we used to have a continuum where the police officer was allowed to do 1 to 2 levels above whatever the suspect was doing, and then that started getting hazy when the suspect had a gun, but he wasn't using the gun, and he was killed. So where does that fall on the continuum? So now the definition is, what would a reasonable person have done in the same situation? And that leads us to our video that I'll have to search, but the background for this is there was an unarmed black man killed in Phoenix, and this pastor led riots throughout the streets of Phoenix. He was calling for this police officer to be jailed. He should be in prison. He murdered this man. And the Phoenix Police Department, instead of lashing out him, they invited him to come to a training, and they put him through the same situation that an officer went through when he killed the man. And basically what it is there's 2 men outside of a bar. They're in a street fight. They're fighting with each other. The officer comes up. He's like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? The guy charges at him, and he's like, stop, stop. And the officer pulled a gun and shot him and killed him. And he was unarmed, but he was drunk. So this pastor, for weeks, just led protests throughout the street. And then this right here is the YouTube video that when they invited the pastor out, put him through the same exact type of training, what he did. So this will be him arriving to the scene. And then this is the recreation that would have been outside of the bar.
What's going on today, gentlemen?
And this is the pastor.
What's going on today, gentlemen? What do you want? What's happening here? What's wrong with Back up. Huh? What are you doing, man? Hey, he shouldn't have approached me. 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 In there. Yeah. What are you doing? You just shot him? Hey, he rushed me.
Man, come on.
He rushed me there.
Well, get help now.
We're gonna get help. I'm gonna radio for help. Let's see what's going on here.
Man. Alright,
It ain't no joke, you know?
that's definitely a scenario that every police officer faces.
Yeah,
All
you
the
face
time.
all the time.
Someone rushing you, you don't know what's going on, they were in a physical altercation, and they all of a sudden both turn on you at the
Yeah.
end. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And that's common. What was happening here, they were fighting, he wasn't armed, he didn't have anything, but he came at you.
Right.
You felt that you needed to shoot and you shot. Once again, tell me why you shot.
Well, I shot because he was within that zone, you know, I felt there was an imminent threat. I didn't necessarily see him armed, but he came.
And that right there was a big part that they showed on the news. He said that I didn't see that he was armed, but he shot him anyway. And so this pastor called for the protest to stop. He said, I understand now, I get it, because he was a big advocate for, you could have tased it. He was that close to you, you could have tased it. But since there was two of them, the threat became even more, because if you tase one, that's another drunk guy coming at you, and your taser only goes one time. So then you have to either fumble for pepper spray, or that holster is right here, and it's a quick out and up. But this pastor, he ended up going through like 3 or 4 more situations, and one was where he was in the street and they had a car open and it had like a hatch. So he was standing back by the hatch, and this was another case they had in Phoenix. There was a man digging around in his trunk, and the police told him to come around to the side, and he wouldn't do it. So the police officer started walking towards him, and the guy pulled out a gun and shot the police officer, and the police officer pulled and shot him back and killed him. And that was another time the family tried to sue the police department for wrongfully killing a man. And the pastor led riots for that too, and included that. They put him through that, and he ended up getting killed because he walked towards the guy again and didn't pull his gun out, and the guy just turned the corner and shot him 7 or 8 times before he even got his gun out. So it goes to show that it's for public safety, because if he's gonna kill a police officer, he has no problem killing anybody else. And it's just, if you don't stop the threat, you're not going home at the end of the night either. So in conclusion, the thing I want to show today is that it's a valuable tool when used correctly, and it is used incorrectly all too often as well. But when it is used correctly, it really shows public safety and officer safety. And I just want to let people know that if they can get in the same mindset before they're so quick to judge a police officer, that it might help some of the tensions we have today. And the reason that this topic was so important to me is that my family had a close friend killed in Kansas City. He was shot and killed by a person because the department wanted to go to less than lethal tactics. So he tried to deploy a taser, hit him, didn't do anything, and the guy had a gun in his back pocket, in his waistband, and pulled out and shot him twice and killed him. So it's just, my stepdad asked me, well, why do you want to be a cop? He said, everybody hates us. And it's just something I want to rewrite the narrative a little bit and let people know that cops aren't bad people. There are bad cops, but there's bad people in every field you go into. I just want to let people know that there's still good cops out there. Thank you guys for listening.